Hello and welcome to Talkernate History, the podcast where we,
Matt
and Max, talk about works of alternate history scenarios, and history in general. Last episode, we talked about the Spike TV alternate history pilot, and it got us thinking a lot more about Spike TV's other forays into historical edutainment. An example that really is near and dear to our hearts, a television show that we've watched quite a bit of, is Deadliest Warrior.
Oh boy, yes.
So for people who are not familiar with Deadliest Warrior, basically the idea of the show is that they take these historical figures from the past and they talk about their culture, their weapons, how they fought, what they did in history, and then they make them fight each other.
Yeah. And they spend basically 95% of the show just on, once they've picked the specific person or the specific type of warrior or soldier, they give them like a pre-assigned, each has 3 weapons or 4 weapons, it depends. They'll have like a ranged weapon, a medium weapon, and a close hand-to-hand combat weapon, and then they'll have these so-called like guest experts come on who some of them are, I think, legitimate. Like for more of the modern stuff, like when they do like the Green Berets episode, like they do get real Green Berets, so those are, obviously no problem there. But for some of these more ancient ones, they get these people, I don't really know who they are. But then they'll take their spear or sword or whatever, they're testing it out, and they'll spend a whole lot of time building it up, and then they'll like attack a gel dummy with some stuff, right. And then they'll be like, well, what's the pounds per square inch of this blow, whatever. And then I guess we should have explained more that there's like some set hosts on the show, and there's like one guy who was like a paramedic, so he knows how to set this stuff up, and then there's a guy who was knowledgeable about computers, and then they had Mac Makowitz, who I think has been on other shows too, who's a former Navy SEAL who talks about weapons and tactics, and then they have a doctor who basically will be like, he'll go and look at the wounds and be like, that's a kill or not. Or
not just any doctor, the great one, Armand Dorian.
Yeah.
And he's an expert about telling you whether or not something's a kill shot.
Yeah.
Like in the Napoleon versus George Washington episode, at one point a cannonball knocks a guy's head off. And
a dummy's head off.
Oh, okay, yeah, not an actual person. But like he walks up to the dummy and like checks it and says, yeah, that's a kill shot right there.
Yeah, but I guess, and then at the very end, so once they've done all this, and it's mostly just kind of like filler, and people have pointed this out, and they get to the end, and then they'll run the simulation, and they'll have this fight.
A highly advanced simulation that we don't actually see how it works, but it's very advanced.
So they'll like start it up, they'll have these reenactors, and for most of them, at least in the first few seasons, there's just these 2 people, they'll be walking in a field somewhere for no reason in this unidentified place, and they'll just see each other, like look at each other for a second, and then just like pull up their sword and like start screaming and running at the other guy.
Yeah,
they've just seen each other, and they're like, in about 3 seconds, like, I think I need to go kill that guy.
I think the best one is the Al Capone versus Jesse James one.
Yeah.
That one's unbelievable because the way it's set up is that Al Capone's walking into a museum.
Yes, with his henchmen. Yeah.
With his henchmen, and they're all armed. They all have guns and brass
Thompsons.
knuckles.
Yeah, Thompsons, submachine guns, just walking around.
And then suddenly, I guess like it's a night at the museum kind of thing, because Jesse James and his gang are also there. And they just immediately start fighting each other. It's unbelievable. It's high camp.
It's a bit goofy, I must say, and I guess it's certainly entertaining, is what I would say.
Oh yeah, but, like the end segments where those reenactments happen that's why you watch the show.
Yeah, you don't watch it to find out whether this particular type of sword is a better ability to penetrate chainmail than this other one.
Does it have an edge or not? Yeah.
They'll give the edge to whatever weapon they think is better, and then I guess they plug that into the simulation. They're never really clear about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people standing around and getting things set up and talking while they're doing it. Mm-hmm. But I think what our issue with is that it just, I don't know if it really does historical justice to history.
Yeah, not really. I mean, if anything, it might orient people a little bit more with certain historical figures, like, oh, okay, this is who Attila the Hun is, kind of. He was a guy who was a bad guy who used a bow and he was on a horse, and it's like, okay. But other than that, it's really not useful for historical teaching.
Yeah, well, because it's like they're more focused on not like who Attila the Hun was, but how would Attila the Hun have fought like Genghis Khan or whatever it was? I forget who Attila the Hun fought, but
Not to mention the fact that they do really stupid things like what was it? Vlad the Impaler versus Sun Tzu.
Yeah,
There was he's a literati. He's a writer. He's not.
well. Yeah, and also, but the better point is that the complete mismatch, and I guess this was natural, between certain types of technologies, like Vlad the Impaler from like the 15th century has guns, and Sun Tzu is from, I don't how 2,000 years before that.
Yeah. Similar ones: pirate versus ninja.
No, pirate versus knight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Even dumber.
So the pirate has like a blunderbuss and pistols and explosives, and the knight has a sword and like a mace.
Yeah.
And it plays out just as you think. I mean, at a certain point, why don't you just do, Navy SEAL versus Spartan? I mean, just why not? Why not just throw it all out the window?
Like a Darkest of Days kind of thing. Just mowing them down.
Yeah. And then the last episode totally went off the rails.
Yeah. So the third season had a pretty bad start with the Napoleon versus George Washington thing, and then having George Washington win, which makes no sense. But the lowest point of the whole thing is the final episode, which is zombies versus vampires. What? What are you doing?
I mean, how do you, and I remember they got poor Max Brooks, the guy who wrote World War Z, to be the zombie expert. And I remember at one point they're like, well, we have to test the bite strength of a zombie. So they built some sort of handheld contraption that had these big jaws, and he had to like go like hook it onto things, like crush like dummy heads with it. And it was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is pretty dumb. And they got like some vampire expert, and it's just, dude, who are these people? They hung dummies from like ropes, and then they had a guy running through and was swiping at them as quickly as he could.
I think we're going a little less harshly on them on this than on the alternate history pilot, because we sort of get what this is. I think this knows more what it wants to be.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot more schlocky. It's like for fun.
Yeah.
It's not really for educating people.
No, they say that like this is supposed to be educational, but this is about watching two guys fight each other, and one of them kills each other at the end.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I guess it was a good thing that it got canceled with the whole dumb zombie vampire thing. That was a bad sign for where the TV show was going.
They could have gone. There could have been so many great ones. FDR versus Hirohito.
What if, so FDR's in the White House. It's nighttime. He's in the Oval Office. He's stressed out. He's worried about World War II. And then suddenly he hears some footsteps on the roof. It's like, what's that? And it's like, it's Hirohito has dropped in personally to settle the score. So, he's got like a sword, but he's very short. And FDR's obviously cannot move his legs, but he's extremely strong. He's got really good upper body strength. Like you see him bench pressing his typewriter, like in Misery. And, I think that'd be a pretty good matchup. I think.
Well, I always just, when I thought of that, imagined, because people just stumble into fields, is that Hirohito and FDR are stumbling into a field for some reason, and then FDR, like they're running at each other, and FDR is, in his wheelchair, like holding a knife in one hand, just screaming and going straight at him. So Stalin versus Hitler. I mean, just have them settle World War II in a hand-to-hand combat,
Oh my God, I love it.
So you're getting the point, is that almost if you're going to do this, just take the ridiculousness to like just the point of absurdity.
Yeah. Like maybe like keep historical accuracy if you can, but mainly just be as goofy as possible.
And entertaining.
Yeah.
Be as goofy and entertaining as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit, again, it is enjoyable to watch them, although to be perfectly frank, if I would watch it now, I would just go to the end fight scene.
Yeah.
Just skip out. And you have to give it to them that they did try to spice it up at times, where they did, at first it was just one-on-one combat, and then they would do like these group battles in some of them, where there's like SWAT versus GSG-9, or Navy SEALs versus, I think, was it the Spetsnaz, or is that Green Beret? I don't know, but they would do like 5-on-5, and that gave it a little bit more oomph than just,
Right.
And also, you have to do that when you have like guns come into play, because it would be really stupid if you had just had two guys with guns. I mean, I guess it ends quickly. Like ask Alexander Hamilton about that. Burr versus Hamilton, Deadliest Warrior.
Who is deadliest? The IRA episode where the IRA and the Taliban fight. And like the IRA wins, and the guy just goes, yeah, whoa.
Like, and everyone, when they kill at the end, the person just goes, oh boy. But I think we I guess sort of weighing in, there actually could have been ways to have made this probably, if they were going to go for the entertainment angle, they could have probably spent less time on them stabbing dummies with spears and more time with the reenactments.
Yeah, the reenactments are like the heart and soul of all this. If I was in charge and making a new Deadliest Warrior, I would put as little actual human beings in it as possible. In fact, I might even just do entirely like reenactment stuff with like a narrator talking about like the Huns had this type of bow, and then you'd show the Huns using it, and then there'd be like some goofy reason for them to see each other, like a final countdown time travel thing or something, and then maybe have a little bit more story to it than just they see each other and say, "Are you?"
Just for some reason, just decide to go at it.
Jeez, there's like the dumbest website on the planet. I think it's Deadliest Fiction or something like that.
Oh boy,
fan fiction, Deadliest Warrior stuff.
Entering the world of fan fiction is already dangerous, but this.
But something like that might be kind of fun.
I mean, you could think of endless combinations. Shakespeare versus Hemingway. Why not just have non-military people just fight each other for the hell of it? So I guess the point is that we don't want to go too harsh on it. It's just goofy, and you watch it, and you just can't help but laughing with all this stuff. But but it is entertaining. Like, I will admit, like, I've never been not entertained watching it.
Would you suggest people go out and try to look at it, or is it?
I mean, if you, I wouldn't rush to do it, but if you've just got some time to kill and you're interested in this, and like, I mean, if you are interested in the weapons testing, like, yeah, why not? But like, the best part is clearly the fight stuff at the end. But again, I guess it's the most alternate history in the most tenuous of senses. But it is, at least, I think I'm just happy that any network is doing something history related. Mm-hmm.
Even if it's Spike.
Yeah, well, the History Channel has sort of abdicated its responsibilities. So anyone who does anything historical that doesn't involve also including aliens.
We could do a Deadliest Warrior like aliens versus werewolves. I think that'd be a good match.
Might as well, after vampires versus zombies. I mean, you might as well just go completely off track.
Off the rails. Yeah. Fictional characters.
Oh, goodness.
Yikes.
Well, I think that's about it. This is going to be kind of a short episode.
Yeah, pretty darn short.
We just felt like we wanted to discuss it.
Yeah.
So this is Matt signing off.
And this is Max signing off.
Have a good day, guys.